When my grandmother passed away last year, everything changed, but not in the way people expected. My name's Eli, and I'm 24 now. For the last 6 years of her life, I lived with my grandma, May. We were close. Like, talk about everything, know each other's secrets kind of close. She was the only real parent I ever had. I hadn't spoken to my father or his new family in nearly 8 years. Grandma hadn't either. We both went full no contact after what they put me through. This isn't one of those stories where a grandma just spoils her grandkid out of pity. No. Grandma May chose me over her own son. She saw everything. She watched me be neglected and treated like trash. And before she died, she made sure to set things right her way. But let me go back a bit, so you understand how we ended up here. My biological mother? She was gone before I could say mama. Apparently, she had me during a very rocky time in her life. One day she just decided she wasn't cut out for it. She dropped me off with my grandparents, my dad's parents, and vanished into whatever life she'd rather be living. Never heard from her again. My dad, Theo, was in the military at the time. He came home on leave, learned he had a kid, and after my grandpa passed away, he took me in. That was it. Suddenly, I'm living with a man who didn't even know how to talk to me, let alone raise me. For a while, I thought it might work. I was 5 when he introduced me to the woman who would become my stepmother, Valerie. She had 3 kids from a previous marriage, Micah, Alina, and Jordan, all older than me. I remember being told, "You're going to have a mom again. You're going to have siblings. We're going to be a real family." At the time, I believed him. That belief didn't last long. The wedding was rushed, just a month after we all moved into the same house. And right from the start, it was like I'd trespassed into their family. I wasn't part of it. I was the unwanted add-on. The charity case. I'll never forget the day of the wedding. We were all supposed to be waiting in the same room to walk down the aisle as one big, happy blended family. But Alina and Jordan shoved me to the ground and told me I didn't belong in the pictures. "You're not one of us," Jordan said. And it just went downhill from there. The older I got, the more brutal it became. Physical stuff. Verbal abuse. Mean little pranks that turned into outright assaults. I'd tell Dad. I'd tell Valerie. But they just brushed it off. "They're going through a lot," they'd say. "They lost their real dad. Try to understand." Understand? I was a kid, too. I lost my mom and never even got to know her. I was shipped around like a spare part. But somehow, that never counted. Grandma May, though, she saw it all. She'd take me on weekends. Talk to me like I mattered. She even confronted my dad, told him he was blind. She told him flat out, "Theo, you've replaced your son with someone else's children." He said, "He has a mother now. That's what matters." She said, "No. He has a stepmother who's letting her kids abuse him." Eventually, when she started asking to have me more often, they said no. Not unless all the kids were invited. Of course, the others refused to go if I was there, so I ended up with nothing. That's when Valerie's kids started saying things like, "Too bad your real mom didn't just abort you." That was their favorite line. And my dad? Never once defended me. May finally snapped when I was 11. It was at her house. One of the kids shoved me so hard I hit my head on her kitchen floor because I tried to sit next to them at dinner. She exploded. She told them they were monsters, little sociopaths in training, and told my dad he had failed me worse than my real mom ever could have. Dad screamed at her. Valerie screamed at her. Everyone was screaming. May kicked them out. Told them to never come back. And when they tried to drag me with them, she physically stood in the doorway and told them she'd call the police. From that day on, they cut off all access. I wasn't allowed to speak to her, visit, or even write her. They made up some wild accusations and even called the cops on her for trying to kidnap me. None of it stuck. But the damage was done. They locked me away from the only person who gave a damn about me. I didn't see May again until I turned 18 and finally escaped that house. I ran straight to her. We hugged for what felt like hours. She cried so hard she could barely breathe. I moved in that night. For the next 5 years, we rebuilt everything. She was already aging, but sharp as ever. I helped her with bills, handled repairs, cooked, cleaned. It felt like we were finally living the life we were supposed to have. Then, last summer, she died suddenly. Heart failure. No warning. No time to say goodbye. But she'd already prepared. The day after Grandma May passed, I got a call from her attorney. I didn't even know she had one. Turns out, she'd been working on her will for years and had updated it 3 months before she died. "Eli, the lawyer told me your grandmother was very clear about her wishes. She wanted everything to go to you. Everything. Not just the money. The house. The family home my dad grew up in. The antique jewelry from my great-grandmother. Her pension, her investments, her savings. Even the furniture with post-it notes hidden in drawers that said things like, "You always loved this chair," or "Don't let your dad touch this cabinet. He always hated it." And then came the kicker. She left my father $1. $1. It wasn't a petty gesture. It was strategic. The absolute minimum she could leave him without him being able to challenge the will in court. The lawyer explained she'd specifically asked to include that amount so there'd be no loopholes. He could scream all he wanted. Legally, she'd nailed the coffin shut. Of course, my dad didn't take it well. He tried to contest the will immediately. Said that as her only child, he was entitled to at least a fair portion. He even brought up some dusty old photo of them fishing together when he was a teenager, like that somehow erased years of him letting his stepkids beat the hell out of me. Didn't work. His claim was thrown out faster than you could say you raised monsters. Then came the real circus. At first, it was lawyers. Letters, emails, offers to negotiate. They said things like, "Let's be reasonable, and surely, you understand this inheritance was meant for the family as a whole." Then it got personal. Valerie messaged me on Facebook. Told me that if I had any respect for my mother, I would divide the money evenly with my siblings. She used the word siblings like a knife, as if we shared anything other than bad memories. Micah left a comment under one of my photos. "Nice house. Hope it keeps you warm when you realize you've got no real family left." Even Jordan messaged me, asking if he could just have the garage tools, because Grandma always said I could have them someday. "Nah, man. She said y'all were monsters. You get nothing." Eventually, my father came in person. Showed up at Grandma May's house, my house now, like he still had a key to this life. I didn't let him in. I stepped out onto the porch and waited. He stood there with that same smug expression I remembered from childhood. The one he always wore when he punished me for bleeding too loudly after one of his wife's kids hit me. He started with guilt. May was sick. She didn't know what she was doing. Then manipulation. "You're punishing the wrong people. This was between her and me." Then the fake concern. "You're going to burn every bridge you have left. This was your family." And that's when I snapped. "You want to talk about family?" I said. "You watched them break me down every day and did nothing. You let it happen. You told me I had a mother now, and then stood back while she and her kids tore me apart." He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. "And Grandma? She saw you for exactly who you were. She called you all monsters. And you know what? She was right. Every single one of you. Monsters don't get legacies. They get forgotten." I stepped back and closed the door. He stood there for a while. I watched through the peephole as he stared at the door like he was expecting it to open again. It didn't. Later that night, he messaged me. Said I'd regret this one day. That money runs out, but blood is forever. I didn't reply, but I wanted to say this. Blood might be forever, but love? That's earned. And you never earned mine. After I shut the door in his face, it didn't take long for the online storm to hit. Within 24 hours, I was tagged in a sob story on Facebook. A long post from Valerie, of course, full of flowery words and twisted truths. It breaks my heart that Eli is so consumed by bitterness he can't see what family means. My husband has always tried his best, and now that Grandma May is gone, it's sad to see how her money turned her grandson against the people who tried to love him. Cue the comment section, an army of whinant sympathy and toxic positivity. Oh honey, you're better off without the drama. Kids today don't understand sacrifice. You and Theo are such good parents. He'll come around eventually. It was disgusting. But the real slap in the face? When Alina posted a carousel of pictures with Grandma May. Old photos. Fake smiles. Like she'd been part of our lives. One was even photoshopped. I could tell because it was taken at May's 80th birthday. A party they weren't even invited to. I was the one who threw it. They were rewriting history in time, framing themselves as the victims of a greedy grandchild. A bitter loner. A boy poisoned by a hateful old woman. So, I did what any self-respecting black sheep would do. I posted my own version. I uploaded a photo of Grandma May and me sitting on the porch last summer. She was laughing, holding her tea, wearing that blue cardigan she always said made her feel like a classy librarian with attitude. And I captioned it. This woman raised me when no one else would. She stood by me when the people who should have protected me walked away. She left her legacy to the person who never left her side. Not everyone deserves a piece of what they helped destroy. It went viral, at least in our small town, family friend bubble. People commented. DMs poured in. A few relatives reached out to say they had no idea how bad things were for me. Some apologized for not noticing sooner. But just as many doubled down. My aunt, Dad's sister, messaged me privately and said, May always played favorites. But taking everything and saying we were monsters? That's low. I left her on read. Then the real twist came. 2 weeks after May's funeral, I got another call from her lawyer. He said something strange had come up, a document in a sealed envelope, labeled only for Eli, when they come crawling. It was a letter, in her handwriting, full of the sharp, brutal love only May could wield. She wrote about her regrets, about letting my dad raise me when she saw how selfish he'd become, about the night he told her I wasn't his priority anymore, about how she knew he'd try to guilt me into sharing the wealth and how it would all come down on my shoulders. Then she dropped a bomb. She had once paid off legal bills to keep Theo and Valerie from losing their house. Tens of thousands of dollars. Money they begged for, then never repaid. Not only that, May had been secretly helping my step-siblings behind my father's back. College application fees. A down payment for Jordan's first car. Even tutoring sessions for Alina. Why? Because, as she wrote, I needed to know if it was just her father, or if it was all of them. I gave them a chance to show me their hearts. They showed me their teeth instead. The letter ended with this. Don't let them use shame as a key. What they want now is what they always wanted: control. You don't owe them peace. You owe yourself freedom. I cried reading it. Like ugly cried. I hadn't cried that hard since I was a kid locked in a bathroom with a bruised rib from Jordan's play fight. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It never was. This was about the truth being on record. About someone finally saying out loud that I hadn't imagined the neglect. That I wasn't crazy or dramatic or too sensitive. I was just alone. And she saw me. After that, I stopped feeling guilty. But my father? He ramped it up. Started leaving voicemails saying things like, This isn't what she would have wanted. You know that. You're letting bitterness poison your blood. You need to fix this before it's too late. He even tried sending me a letter of his own. Handwritten. Dramatic. Full of spiritual metaphors about forgiveness and family ties. He quoted scripture. Scripture. He also asked for $10,000 to cover the roof repairs on their house. I laughed so hard I dropped the letter in May's old fireplace. So there I was, 24, holding the keys to my grandmother's house, managing her investments, and dodging emotional landmines being lobbed by the people who should have protected me. The inheritance wasn't just a windfall. It was a battlefield. After the letter from May, I stopped pulling punches. I blocked Theo's number, shut down Valerie's barrage of emails, set my social media profiles to private. The only messages that got through were the passive-aggressive Christmas cards. Micah sent one that read, Wishing you warmth in that empty house. Alina's just said, Still family whether you like it or not. I didn't even open Jordan's. I threw it straight into the trash like I did with most of my childhood memories. But of course, they weren't done. Early spring, I woke up to a banging on the front door. 3 a.m. Full panic mode. It was my neighbor, Darlene, 65 years old and full of righteous southern rage in a bathrobe and slippers. Baby, I think your daddy just tried to break into your garage. I ran outside barefoot. And there it was. My dad's truck parked halfway across my lawn like a drunk rhino. Garage door wide open. The lock busted. One of the motion lights busted too, clearly smashed. The police were already on their way. Darlene had called them before knocking on my door. That woman doesn't play. I peeked into the garage and saw what he was after, an old chest labeled Dad stuff. Thing is, I knew he'd come back for it. May told me about it years ago. It was her little trap. Inside the chest were two things. A box of old photos, childhood toys, and army medals she'd kept just to preserve history. A folder labeled Theo for the lawyers. It contained receipts. Literally. Dozens of bank statements showing every dollar May spent bailing him out over the years. Missed mortgage payments. A shady payday loan she cleared for him to protect the kids. Even the time she co-signed a second-hand SUV for Valerie, only for them to stop payments and let it get repossessed. She kept everything. I handed it all to the cops when they arrived, along with footage from the security camera on the porch. Not only had Theo trespassed, but he'd also vandalized property. He tried to play the just wanted some keepsakes card, but the officers weren't buying it. Especially after they ran his plate and discovered the truck wasn't even registered under his name, it was under May's. Which now meant it was legally mine. That was the final blow. After the garage incident, I filed a restraining order. I hated doing it. Hated how permanent it felt. Like sealing a tomb on any chance of real closure. But I knew I had to. The guy who once told me I'd thank him someday for giving me tough love had just tried to rob me of the one woman who actually gave me love. But the craziest part? That wasn't the end. About 2 weeks later, I got a letter. It was from a woman named Lorraine. Apparently, she was once engaged to my dad back when he and my mom first split, before Valerie came into the picture. Lorraine wrote that she'd seen all the drama on Facebook and Reddit, thanks, internet, and felt like she needed to speak up. She told me things that changed everything. My dad didn't just meet Valerie through friends. He cheated on Lorraine with Valerie. And when Lorraine confronted him about it, he told her, and I quote, "I don't need someone who comes with baggage. I need someone who'll clear the path." She included screenshots of old emails. Even a blurry photo of Theo and Valerie holding hands at a bar, timestamped 3 months before he officially ended things with Lorraine. Apparently, my mom had left because Theo was already sleeping around. Grandma May knew. So did Lorraine. And May told Lorraine to run. Which she did. So yeah, turns out, the entire story of my life about a heartbroken single father doing his best was a fairy tale written by a narcissist with a hero complex. He didn't raise me because he loved me. He raised me because it fit the image he wanted people to see. Lorraine's letter ended with this. "You deserved so much better, Eli. May was right to protect you. I'm sorry I didn't try to reach out sooner. I guess I assumed you were already lost to them." Lost? No. I was found the moment May slammed that door on them and said, "No more." That weekend, I had a locksmith come by and change every lock on the property. I donated the chest of Dad's stuff to a veteran center. The garage got a new door. The motion lights? Upgraded. And the truck? I sold it. I took the money and bought a bench swing for the backyard. One with a plaque that reads, "For May, you saw me. You saved me." Spring melted into summer, and for the first time in years, the chaos was quiet. No banging on the door. No surprise letters. No guilt trips disguised as apologies. Just me, the old house, and the kind of peace I didn't think I'd ever get to experience. But peace can make your mind wander. And my mind? It wandered to one place, the attic. Grandma May's attic was a vault of forgotten things, trunks, hat boxes, shelves of dusty photo albums, and one crooked lamp that flickered like it knew secrets. I hadn't been up there since the funeral. Something about it always made me feel like May was still nearby, hovering over my shoulder, daring me to find the next breadcrumb. And sure enough, I did. Tucked between 2 faded cookbooks was a small manila envelope. No name on the outside, just a short note in May's handwriting. "For when you're ready to let go." Inside, there was a letter. One last message from her. Her handwriting was shaky, but her words? Crystal sharp. She started by telling me how proud she was. That she knew I'd feel guilty. That I'd question whether keeping everything was cruel. But she assured me again that love isn't owed through blood. Then she wrote something that hit like a truck. "You might not know this, but I almost gave up custody of your father when he was young. He wasn't easy, angry, cold. He used to break things when he didn't get his way. Your grandfather said it was just a phase. It never was. I stayed. I hoped I could love the darkness out of him. I couldn't. But with you, Eli, with you, I didn't have to try. You were the light in this family's curse. You broke the cycle just by surviving it." She also explained why she left everything to me, not just out of love, but because she trusted me to do something important. Use it to build, not to burn. I couldn't stop them from breaking things, but I believe you'll know what to protect. And then, the very last line. "Forgive me for not being able to stay longer. But I stayed long enough to know you'll be okay." I sat on the floor of the attic and cried like I hadn't since the funeral. Not out of grief this time, but something harder to name, something like healing. In the weeks that followed, I made a decision that caught everyone off guard. I created a trust fund. Not for my dad. Not for Valerie. Definitely not for my step-siblings. But for their kids. Theo's grandchildren, some of whom I barely knew, were the only ones I couldn't blame. They were born into a mess they didn't make. So I set up education funds. Small ones, nothing flashy. Just enough to ensure they'd have a shot May never had. But I made one rule clear. None of the parents could touch the money. Ever. The reaction? Nuclear. Theo tried to twist it as an insult. Valerie called it a publicity stunt. Alina posted some long-winded rant about how I was trying to act morally superior. Jordan even sent me a voice memo, furious that I trusted their kids more than my own blood. He wasn't wrong. But the real kicker? I didn't even tell them about it directly. I sent a letter, like May would've, just saying, "This is not an apology. This is a course correction. Your kids deserve a clean start." That's all. Then I signed it. From the black sheep, who found his own herd. It's been almost a year since May died. I still live in her house. The same swing bench out back. Same chipped tea kettle on the stove. Same photos on the wall. Except now I've added one of us together. The last one we ever took. No one from Theo's family has shown up since the restraining order. The town has moved on from the gossip. And me? I'm okay. Really okay. I started therapy. I volunteer now. I even opened a scholarship in May's name at the local community college, funded entirely from the sale of my dad's old truck. I call it the Second Chance Fund. Because that's what she gave me. Not everyone gets that. But if you do, you make it count. TLDR. My dad let me be abused by his new family, cut off the one person who ever cared for me, and then tried to rob me after she died and left me everything. I inherited it all. Told him and his family exactly what Grandma May thought of them. Set up trust for the next generation so the cycle doesn't repeat. And now, I'm free.